What are some of the things that elite athletes are doing in order to ensure that they're thriving and succeeding in their roles? I can tell you that it's not going out and spraying and praying. They're doing specific strategies and tactics. And on this episode, we're going to outline some things, behaviors that you need to adopt if you really want to be like one of them elite sellers. Check it out. Hey, everyone. Welcome to another great episode of the Sales Evangelist podcast. I'm your host, Donald C. Kelly, the Sales Evangelist, and I'm so excited for another great episode. I'm so excited to be here with you today. And on this episode, I have John Butler. JR runs an organization where he takes elite athletes and helps them to jump into B2B tech sales and help them to thrive in that sales arena. Some good stuff in that. But thing that JR has that I felt was really important for this episode was that he did it as an athlete. He does it as a sales professional. And I'm sure you guys like that cover art, right? That's not fake blood. That's the real deal right there, man. JR don't play. But JR's goal, though, is really around helping you as an individual seller to thrive. And he's been able to evaluate and see what elite athletes are doing and what makes them successful in their sales world. And he's taken that knowledge and he put it into the training that he has and specifically bottling it down into this episode today. And we're going to go over several things that you can take advantage of. One of those, you're going to hear about habits, you're going to hear about the skills, and you're going to hear about the processes. I won't give it all away why and how he breaks this down. You're going to listen to it and take advantage of it. If this is your first time, however, listening to our podcast, subscribe. And if you're watching one of our videos, hit that little bell at the top and we'll notify you every time we drop a new episode. If you're trying to figure out LinkedIn and you need some help, again, check us out. Go to thesalesevangelist.com/LinkedIn and you can see our course there. You can find out how you can apply for it, how you can generate at least 3 appointments per week without spamming. Let's go ahead and dive into the episode. JR, welcome to the show, man.
Thank you for having me, Donald. Excited to be here.
Of course. We're really looking forward to this conversation. Many sellers out there trying to figure out how they can survive and succeed in their space going into the challenges we're seeing right now in the economy. Tightening of the economy is what I call it. You come across a lot of sales professionals, so I'm excited to tap into your brains and to kind of see what are some of the things that you're seeing that make an elite seller stand out. Before we dive into that, though, tell us a little bit more about what you guys are doing. Some pretty cool stuff going on over there.
Absolutely, and I'll keep it brief. So I'm a longtime sales leader and salesperson, Donald. I've built teams my whole career for the last 15 years in fast growth, venture-backed technology companies. I've been fortunate to be part of a couple good exits and was in charge of hiring my whole career and basically took the challenges I had with hiring along with the challenges I had personally when I retired from elite hockey and I built a business around it. So we take former elite athletes, college, professional, Olympic athletes, as well as military vets. We run them through a sales training camp, and then we help them get BDR jobs across the United States. Super simple value prop, super simple approach.
And I love the fact that you have your niche, right? Looking for those elite athletes, folks who, there's certain characteristics behind them that makes them so successful. And putting them into position. But let's talk about that real quick. Why did you go for that avenue though? In particular, I have my guess where I just shared, but is there anything in particular that say, man, we got to get elite athletes, or is it because you just want to help out athletes because that's where you come from?
No, I think, I'm not the smartest guy in the world, Donald, but when But when I started in sales, I had a lot of success right away, and I attribute almost 99% of my success outside of having great leadership and mentors was my intangible characteristics that I brought to the table as a former elite athlete. I spent my entire life losing games, getting cut from teams, coming back from injuries. So, getting hung up on 99 times in a row it was like water off my back. I didn't care. I had to be at the top of the leaderboard in our BDR sales floor because that's kind of what I spent my entire life doing, was trying to be at the top of the leaderboard, taking constructive criticism and feedback. My father was a high school hockey coach. I've never been told I was doing well ever. So coachability is literally in my bones. And I just think I've always believed that, I'm not stuck in any skill or habit or process I have. I believe that I can get better at anything. That's kind of part of my growth mindset, and it's from years of working hard to achieve my goals as an athlete. So I think, understanding my own intangibles and what made me successful, and knowing that most athletes have those, is really the inspiration behind the company.
Mm. So let's tackle those. You mentioned some intangibles that you've had. Today, we want to know what are some of those things. Like, these sellers are listening to this episode. They're like, bro, I want to know what I can do to adopt so I can consistently hit pipeline. What are some of those intangible, and maybe highlight, are those, maybe what can we do to make sure what are you seeing that's making sellers consistently hit pipeline?
So
Maybe one question altogether, perhaps.
yeah, no. So like those intangibles are obviously like, those are table stakes, right? Like,
Hmm.
you anyone who's had success in the BDR or AE role probably has already have those inherently, or they develop them over time.
Hmm.
When I think of like the athletic traits that lead to long-term success and short-term success, of like building pipeline in a quarter as an example, the first thing that I think of is being goal oriented, right? Pursuing goals, right? That's pretty easy to say. I don't think anybody in sales doesn't pursue goals, because that's like literally how we get paid.
Sure.
The difference is the understanding of how to achieve a goal, right? And what I always talk about with athletes is there's an inherent passion for excellence. And what I mean by that is, when I played hockey, right, I understood the skills I need. I wanted to play Division I college hockey. So I knew I needed to shoot pucks well. I'd skate fast, hit hard, all those kind of skills, like those stick handle. So I understood those skills, right? Then I understood the habits that I needed to have. I needed to eat right. I needed to go to the gym, go to bed early, wake up early, do X amount of push-ups, sit-ups, and squats a day, right? So then there's the habits, and then there's the processes, right? So then there's, understanding a power play, penalty kill, where I need to be on the ice when the puck's in the corner versus when it's at the point. So as soon as I understood those things, I wanted to be excellent at all of them, because I knew that's how I was going to achieve my goal of playing Division I hockey. But the way I did that was I practiced every single one of those things with intention, every single day, every single week, every single month, from 11 years old to 23 years old, 24 years old. And like, I know that sounds oversimplified, but I actually think sales is similar to sports in that, one, it's a meritocracy, but two, it's something you can get better at every single day, right? And you can really break down the success of great salespeople when you look at their skills, their habits, and their processes. And those are things that you can then practice with intention on a daily basis, break down into simpler tasks that you can practice with your peers, practice with your leaders, and then you use that practice to pursue goals. And I can kind of dig into those more, but like, that's kind of what I think of there.
Yeah, you got me there. You got me writing down notes here like I'm in a high school geology class or something, getting ready for the exam. So let's go. Let's keep going deeper on this. What are some of those things that you're seeing? Maybe if there are 3 or 4 things that those elite sellers are doing right now, and then we can take some time and break those down.
Yeah, I think so. I'll start with let's go through skills, habits, and processes, and
Sure.
I'll start with the skills. I think skills wise, the really important stuff this year is like really, really deep account research, like really being able to look at a business, understand how the current market and the current environment is impacting that business, and the specific persona, and even down to the specific person that you're reaching out to, right? Because, everybody's busy. Nobody wants to change right now. Everything is kind of in wait and see mode. So if you're not hitting people with super personalized, super relevant reach out, you're going right to the junk mail. Like, you're going right to the delete folder. So I think account research from a skills perspective is wildly, wildly important.
Let's go deep on that. How do you do account research, though, to make sure it makes sense? Because you're talking about like BDRs here. I mean, do I want my BDR? I know some of the managers and the leaders listening to this, and you know it too. Some of those sales leaders are out there, they're like, no, man, I want them just pound the phones, pound the phones, pound the phones. The more activity is going to give the results, a numbers game. Talk to me about this. I need you to break that myth and why that's so critical
No, I love
and
that you asked
how
that.
to do that.
I
Yeah.
love that you asked that because I actually agree with you, right? Like,
Yeah.
when I ran sales teams, I didn't want a BDR spending 2 hours on an account. But this is why it's a skill that you can practice, right?
Mm.
You give me an account to break into and a problem to solve. I've done this 10,000 times plus. I can look at a company in 10 minutes and be like, all right, this is what we need to do. I can look through the 10K quick, read the transcript of the earnings call, go on their website, read their values, read their recent news. Like, that's something that I can do with my eyes closed in 10 minutes for
Mm-hmm.
one reason and one reason only: consistent repetition, right? Perfect practice makes perfect. So those sales leaders are right. They don't want their BDRs spending 2 hours on an account, but it's their job to teach those BDRs exactly what to do for every account so that the BDR can still do 100 accounts in a day in 10-minute increments.
Muscle
So
memory, right? You just have
100%,
to. Yeah. So
100%.
it's really good. So looking at the like you said, so leaders need to identify those, and I understand why you're probably not going so deep onto that because every industry is going to be different, like what you may be looking for. But the leader should know those skills to say BDRs. Here's the 5 things you need to look at if you're trying to find a problem. And I love how you mentioned earning calls. Like before I got into sales and in college, I was like, bro, I didn't know companies put out stuff like that. Like, what's a 10K? It's like, that's money. What's that?
I'll take 10K.
I'll take 10K. They're giving out 10K. Uh, but, didn't understand those components. And I think the other part to this too, like, I know some of the folks who are listening are probably, they're selling to like mid-market or SMB, some of their SaaS solutions or whatnot. Obviously, there's a critical mass there. If I'm selling something for $10, probably not going to make sense for me to do that. But for folks who are selling something of value, that research, that prep work, I'll call it, is vital. I'm selling to um, a non-publicly traded organization. Any thoughts, real quick, on maybe what are some of the things that I could do to help identify sources of information?
I think, whether it's SMB or mid market, what you see a lot with executives, right, is they're pretty like they're typically in articles, they're getting interviewed. That's one area. Like, I'm a big believer that you need to use people's own words, not against them, but to help you. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? So I think, in those smaller accounts, there you can still find little nuggets, even if it's stuff that they post on their own website, on their own social media channels, like trying to see how are they showing up to the world, because that's how they want to be seen, and how
Yeah.
can you use that information to say, hey, you say that you leverage cutting edge technology in your go to market process. Well, here's our sales tool that does that, and here's why it's different, and here's why we think we could help you, right? So it's just, and again, that goes back to practicing, like being able to understand exactly what to look for and then tie yourself to that initiative.
Love it. Let's talk about habits. So we got some skills idea. What can we do to improve our skills, and what are some of the habits that I can build to effectively generate these amazing pipeline right now?
Pipeline this year is gonna really rely on your ability to maintain momentum, which I think is a habit, and that's through great meeting preparation, setting good agendas, and making sure you're capturing the right kind of notes during that meeting and doing phenomenal follow up. So I guess, like, to summarize, it's really follow up, right? Like I think momentum is going to be critical this year, and like really good cadenced follow up is a habit. That's a habit. Like, the best salespeople I've ever worked with in my career were just ferocious in the way that they followed up with the companies and like harped on the stuff they heard in the initial meeting that they knew resonated with their solution. I think that's critical this year.
Mm. I like that. That I was just talking to someone this morning, and the concept of following up. I think so many people, like, they put it in this notion like, just following up crap. Like, it's more than that. It's like giving me, and I think it goes back to your number one, the skill set. If I'm finding out stuff, like, go back to, let's say I found a podcast and you're on that podcast, you're talking about, like, latest technologies, and I heard that snippet. I did that in my pitch. We talked a little bit, but you went by the wayside. I can say, hey, Donald, I love this part where you mentioned, if I played a video screen share of that part of the episode, say, you mentioned this, and I know you're interested in that key part. I mean, that's following up, but it's not like a garbage just following up. And then the other part to that too is like, Donald, when I first heard you about talking about technology innovation, that prompted me to reach out to you. You were on this podcast. Here's another podcast I think your team should probably look to get you on as well. That's a follow up as well, right? You know what I mean? Like, it's not the garbage. Hey, JR,
Yeah.
how you doing? Just want to follow up, touch
Yeah.
bases. Stop
Yeah.
touching my base.
Yeah. Bringing this to the top of your inbox. Bringing this to the top of your inbox. That's
Oh
BS.
my goodness.
That's BS stuff. Like honestly, like it could be a nugget, like finding an article about their industry
Yeah.
and just being like, "Hey, Donald, I just saw this. Thought you'd be interested in the read. Here was my takeaway from the article. Let me know what you think."
There you go. Because if you give me, I don't want you to give me more work. But if you were to summarize, like you just said, and say, "Here's my take. This is what I think you guys should pay attention to from our first conversation." Like, bro, this guy's a consultant. Let's
Oh,
jump that. Let's get that next meeting. My bad, I missed the last one.
yeah, 100%. Or I don't remember the last one.
Yeah, I didn't remember. All right. So the habits of following up, building great cadence, as you're saying. Any thoughts on what can we do to any elements of effective cadences that you're seeing, especially as you're working with new sellers right now?
Yeah, I think as you know, right, in terms of the number of times that it typically takes to get a customer to actually engage with you, it's like
Mm-hmm.
8 to 10. But you like it's such a line to cross of like being professionally persistent versus like being pushy and annoying. And I think the answer, it really depends on your industry and the solution that you're selling, right? Like big enterprise software that's transformational, you don't need to follow up every 3 days, right? So it kind of really depends on your sales cycle and like managing the cadence to that a little bit without losing momentum. That's really the key piece is like, how long you should know from your sales operations folks or your sales leader how long something needs to stay in a stage before the chance of closing it drastically drops. You need to keep an eye on that and do cadence accordingly, in my opinion, based off what the data is telling you.
Love it. It's almost like if you're following up or have that cadence going, that it doesn't feel like, like a automated thing. I'm more accepting of that, and it's a poll
Totally.
that we were trying to work on, to ask a question around. But I know a good seller is going to be. I'm willing to take a conversation with a good seller, and especially if they're on their A game, right? Like you said, doing these outreach, like, bro, you earned the time. But I guess the one that makes people more annoyed is just one that feels like a spam or just like a number, on a list rather than, you know what I mean? I'm like,
Totally.
I know they're going to get 3 more emails and I'm going to delete them all,
Yep.
as opposed to, oh my goodness, let me keep this unread.
Yep. It's
Yeah.
that combination of personal but relevant. Like that's the
Yeah.
key combination there.
Yeah. Personal plus relevant. Yeah, I'll put that in the show notes though. That's a click to tweet right there, guys. Um, let's talk about the last one there, the process. So we spoke about skills, we spoke about habits. Process. What are some of the processes that top sellers or elite sellers are doing right now that I should be
So
considering?
yeah, so something my dad used to always say to us when we were little was even a broken clock is right twice a day. Um, So like it's like show your work a little bit, right? Like you've got to, and when I say process, I'm really thinking of like a sales process. Like you've got to have like stages that you follow, things that you need to capture in each stage, and you need to have these gates that you maintain like really really stringently. It's really easy, especially for young sellers, to get happy years and move a
Hmm.
deal from pipeline to strong upside or whatever your kind of stages are. But as a sales leader, you need to say, hey, we do not move a deal to strong upside unless we've shared list price, we've talked to the economic buyer, we've qualified their paper process, whatever it is, right? I personally, I grew up on Medic, right? If I can't talk about a deal and like understand the measurements of improvement, I haven't talked to the economic buyer, I can't explain the decision criteria. Like those are things that are in my bones that like that deal isn't moving until
Mm-mm.
I understand those. So you have, and I don't care what it is. I don't care if it's Bant. I don't care if it's Sandler. There's all these methodologies out there. The point is have one, right? Like
Yeah.
don't wing it. Don't, because you can have a successful quarter every now and then, But like I said, a broken clock is right twice a day. You're going to get bluebirds. You're going to get deals. Unless you can show your work of how you did that deal and how you can repeat it in the next one, then you don't have a process straight up, right?
Yeah. I think go back to the happy ear standpoint. I think that travels with sellers all the time. And I'm going to make up a declaration here. I think happy ears oftentimes have to deal with someone's lack of self-confidence. And I'm going to explain why that comes. And I'm speaking about myself here and from folks that I've coached. Because of lack of self-confidence, oftentimes the buyer says something like, yeah, let's set up a time, or yeah, I'm interested. Send over a proposal. I get excited and go. My lack of confidence to challenge them or to say, why should I question this already intelligent executive? But I need to know, are you going to be the person that's going to sign off? What is that process like internally? And then, that self-consciousness of like, I don't want to lose this. Well, you can't lose something you never had. That's the Sandler statement, right? But you got to make sure you get those things. And MEDDIC is one of those effective processes, methodologies that at least it encourages sellers to have that consultative conversation. But I tie back a lot to that self-confidence, and also obviously playing ignorance too is a great one.
Yeah. And I think like the thing I've always reminded sellers of is like, listen, you've sold this product before. You've helped the customer buy it. This customer has never bought it. You need to tell them, hey, the CFO or the CIO needs to be involved. I've seen this play out, Mr. Customer, 100 times. And if the CIO isn't in the room, we tend to lose the deal. And we've agreed that these outcomes are important to you, and we've agreed that we can achieve them. If you want to achieve these outcomes, we need to get, Dave or Sarah in the room with us for that final meeting, or it's not. So it comes down to like, you're the expert in how companies buy your solution. You don't ask them questions. Like, you're leading with insights. Like, this is why I'm asking this question.
Yeah.
This is why it's important.
Yeah. And I think that part is critical, because, sometimes you can, if you say like this, you tell me like I need to eat vegetables, like, no crap. So everyone tell me I need to eat my vegetables. I don't want to eat vegetables. But if you tell me, Donald, the reason why you need to eat vegetables is because if you want to become that strong hockey player, you need to have like broccoli, and then this one of the best sources of blah, blah, blah. So in that same vein, if you really want to solve this problem, here's the reason why CIOs need to get involved right now, because it takes on average 2 to 3 weeks based on their jobs and the things that they have going to really put times into this. And that's our average we see. And they're the one that typically have to, approve new tech, blah, 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 blah. I'm making this up, but I love that part that you mentioned that. Man, bro, we could talk all day, man. We're making the shift, guys. You like that plug there?
Love it. Good job.
Listen, y'all, I want you to go ahead and you got to make sure you connect with JR. Got a lot of his information here. JR, if there's one major takeaway, I got several here that folks should leave with. What's that one major piece of advice you would feel that they should walk away with in order to build a pipeline effectively like an elite seller?
I would say, it's like in hockey, the average player only holds the puck for 30 seconds. In sales, you're only in front of the customer, maybe depending on what you're selling, 4 or 5 hours total.
Yeah.
So in a 40-hour work week, all that other time, you've got to be getting better for those 4 hours that you're in front of the client. So practice with intention. We don't do anything else in our lives leading up to our careers where we're not consistently practicing, if we're musicians, athletes, whatever. So take that same methodology to your career. And if you make that a habit, it's gonna make a world of a difference for you in the long run.
Fantastic stuff, man. JR, folks out there listening to this episode want to get in touch with you to further connect with you, learn about you and the cool stuff you guys are doing at the Shift Group. What's the best way for them to go about doing so?
They can find us on our website, www.shiftgroup.io. And then I'm a good follow on LinkedIn, JR Butler. I tend to chirp people when I don't agree with them. And my friends tell me it's pretty funny. So I would hit the follow button on my LinkedIn profile as well.
So if you want to see something more entertaining than the next episode of Stranger Things, go ahead and follow JR. You're going to get some good stuff there, man. Thank you, man. I appreciate you coming on the show.
Thank you, Donald. Thank you for having me.
That was Mr. JR Butler. And if you want to go ahead and connect with JR, you can tell him that you heard him here on the Sales Evangelist podcast. As you know, our podcast is designed for two basic things. One, help you to build pipe, and two, convert that pipe. And this episode was all about building that pipe. We're teaching you some stuff, some things that you need to do this year. Some of these principles you may have heard before. I loved how JR took his twist and he shared some of the things that he's doing and shared some of the things that he helped clients with. Specifically, going back to this notion again of ensuring that you know the skills. Again, we couldn't give you all the details of how you do it in your industry. Every industry is different, but you got to know the signs that indicate somebody's really good, and then honing in your message towards that person. That makes such a big difference. And I want you to find out and do the things that JR has to offer and see if it can help you. As always, we share stuff like this because we want you to thrive. We want you to succeed. We want you to find your ideal customers. We want you to know what to say when you reach out to them. We want you to build better pipeline. We want you to be able to close more of that pipe. Most importantly, we want you to raise your level of thinking. Take advantage of our sponsors. They're giving you things that can help you to do so. We really, really, really care about you and your success as a sales professional. Most importantly, we want you to raise your level of thinking, go out and do big things. Thank you so much for watching.